closing a put option early is what we will be discussing in this video. I had a viewer submit a question pertaining to closing a put option early, and I thought not only should I answer the question, but the question was worded in such a way that it would be worthwhile to dissect it a little more. So not only does the viewer have the question answered, but other people can gain some value from the direct answer and dissecting the question a little bit to better figure out how to construct a put option trade, and if you're going to close it early, how and when and what are the ramifications of doing that. At the end of this video, I'm going to give you access to some things that will help you in selling put options. So stick to the end of this video, and maybe about halfway through this video, I'll give you a link to something else that will also help you sell put options in a bear market using stock charts. So this is going to be an action-packed video answering a viewer question. The question about closing a put option early. And if you like that and you like option trading, then consider taking your mouse and hovering it over that subscribe button and putting a click right there, because this channel is all about trading options, and because options are a derivative of the stock market, it's also about the stock market. So let's get into closing a put option early. This comes from viewer Guga, and Guga says, hey, I'm new to trading options, so I have a newbie question. For example, if I want to really own specific stock and sell cash secured puts with 3-month expiration and receive a premium for it, could I close these puts before expiration date? Or am I obligated to hold it until expiration? Will my money be locked for 3 months by a broker since they need it as collateral? If I can sell before expiration, what happens with premium I received? We're going to break this down little by little, kind of answer it along the way, and dissect this question. So the first part is, the first part, we have the question of, could I close these puts before expiration date? Yes. Yes, you can close these puts before expiration date. Or, I am obligated to hold it until expiration. No, you are not obligated to hold it until expiration. The question is really going to be, are you closing them before expiration at a profit or not? And we'll get more into that towards the end of this video about the profit part. So you can absolutely close your put option anytime after you opened it. You do not have to hold it until expiration. And the question is going to be, are you closing it for a profit or not? Now, something that I think is worthy of talking about is this 3-month expiration. Why 3 months? Why did you pick 3 months expiration? There generally, as a newbie, a lot of people will pick a longer expiration because they're going to get more of a premium. And I personally don't do that myself, and I wouldn't recommend it for a newbie to sell these longer expiration time periods to get more money. And one of the reasons is that priority number 1 is risk management. Priority number 2 is making money. And if you're selling a longer expiration, it becomes more difficult, especially as a newbie, to gauge where the stock will or won't be in 3 months. If you are trying to gauge where a stock will and won't be in a 7-day time period, that is way easier to predict than a 3-month time period as a newbie, especially as a newbie. And we're going to get into some other slides that talk about theta decay. At 3 months, you are not taking advantage of theta decay. Now, are there some legitimate reasons to sell 3 months options for? Yeah, and reason number one is that you want to. If you just heard everything that I just said and you said, I don't care, Brent, I still want to do it. Well, you know what? That's it. You're not going to hear anything else from me. If you want to do it, you go ahead and do it. I don't personally do it, except sometimes I do it. I just did it recently. I sold an option for about 100 days because there weren't a lot of expiration dates, and the only choice I had to make any premium was 100 days. Now this is a little different. It's selling covered call options, and so I sold significantly longer expiration. In that case, though, I'm selling. My cost basis is my cost basis for this particular stock is $3. I'm selling a $5 strike price, 100 days out. I do not care what happens. If the stock gets called away from me, I don't care. If the options expire worthless, I don't care. I literally don't care either way. So my situation with selling this long time of option expiration date is a little different than Guga's question, and part of that we'll get into a little bit later. But another reason why it might be a good idea to sell this longer term expiration is that, like for example, I live on Oahu in the state of Hawaii, and there's a lot of military bases here on Oahu. And being prior military myself, around all these military bases, somehow I just interact with a lot of people in the military. And I meet people, sometimes I'm meeting people that are in the Navy and they work on submarines and they go underway for a significant period of time. So maybe you're going to be going somewhere where you don't have easy access to an internet, and you're going to be going for, let's say, 2 months. And ultimately, you're going to be gone for 2 months, but by the time you're really able to get back around the internet, it's going to be like 2.5 months. So you sell a put option for 3-month expiration because you bring in premium, and then you don't have to worry about it. You're putting your money to work. When you come back, you either get assigned, you don't get assigned, la-da-da-da. So there are some legitimate reasons to sell for a longer time period. However, as a newbie, unless you have one of these kind of one-off reasons, you might want to consider selling some shorter time frame. And we're going to get to that, to sell that shorter time frame to take advantage of the theta decay. And we're going to get to that on the next slide. Before we move to that, though, right here it says you really want to own specific stock. So if you really want to own specific stock, why are you thinking about closing the position? I'm curious, do you need this money for something else? You're a newbie. So if you're a newbie, would you need the money for something else? Like, do you need to make a mortgage payment with this money? If that's the case, you shouldn't be doing this. Do you need this money for something else? You know, if you need it for anything else, then you shouldn't be doing this. You should have the money out of the stock market ready to pay your bills. Maybe you're thinking that you want to I don't know what, but everyone needs to kind of look at that. If you really want to own a specific stock, then why would you close it early? Now there are some legitimate reasons to close it early. Actually, you know, there's no a lot of times there's not a black and white answer. There's all these nuances, right? And sometimes you might close it early because you're trading in a bear market. So for example, right now we're at 9 minutes and 30 seconds, and there's a link popping up right here. And it's to a video about selling put options in a bear market. So it's at 9 minutes and 30 seconds. So watch this entire video, and then you can go back to the 9 minute and 30 second mark and watch that video. And maybe you're thinking about closing them because the stock market has been going down and you're worried about getting assigned and the stock keeps going down, which is a legitimate concern. But just make sure that you're make sure you're not trading with money that you need to use it for something else. Now, going back to that 3-month time frame, let's take a look at option theta. What is option theta? Okay, theta is one of the stock option Greeks. Stock option Greeks are theoretical mathematical values that go into determining a stock option's price. Theta refers to the amount of value lost in an option price as it gets closer to its expiration date. Often referred to as theta decay. As the option gets closer to the expiration date, the theta happens at a faster and faster and faster and faster and faster pace. And by the way, at the end of this video, I'm going to tell you how you can get one of this little stock options Greek cheat sheet for free. So make sure you stick around to the end of the video. So theta decay happens at a faster and faster rate as you get closer to expiration. Let's take a look at this using an analogy, I guess, of a conveyor belt. This conveyor belt is going to represent the passage of time. And at the end of the conveyor belt, we have this fire here. And this is representing option expiration date. And over here, at the beginning of the conveyor belt, we have these cubes of ice. And this is representing when the option was bought or sold. So as the conveyor belt moves this block of ice closer to the fire, you know, at first it's getting the heat, but it's just melting a little bit, right? And then when it gets about 50% there, you know, it's going to start decreasing. It's going to start decaying more rapidly. And from here, you can see it has quite a bit of substance left to it. But by the time it's right here in the short distance, it's down to nothing. So consider this, like, let's say this is 1 month of time. Your option value, the value portion of time, because you're selling an insurance policy, and part of an insurance policy is the time segment of it. That's why you're asking, or that's why you're talking about selling a 3-month expiration date. At a 3-month expiration date, you're going to receive a bigger premium because you're selling more theta. The theta portion of the option value, you have more of it. The problem with that, though, is that this theta decay is not rapidly kicking in until like the last 30, maybe even 20 days. The last 7 days, it's super rapid. On the Tastyworks platform, the kind of default number for selling an option, I think, is 21 days. So the people at Tastyworks believe that that's like the juiciest part to be selling an option is like 21 days and less. So 3 months, you know, you're not taking advantage of it, of theta decay. So if you're going to try to close this out at a profit, but you're not really, you know, taking in the theta decay, it's going to be difficult to do that. Will my money be locked for 3 months by a broker since they need it as collateral? Generally speaking, no. Unless you like, when you filled out your option, your brokerage option questionnaire, unless they like have like level 1 option trading and it is held there, I don't know. You need to check with your own individual broker. But out of the 3 different brokerage accounts that I have, none of them are like that for me. And so generally speaking, in the option world, like once you are fully, you have like kind of the training wheels off, your money is not going to be locked up. So you need to be responsible and be accountable for it. And the thing that's going to happen though, since your money is not locked up, you could use it for something else. Now, if you use the money for something other than just sitting there on the sidelines, being ready to purchase the stock without doing anything else to your position, right? Without doing anything else to your position, then you are changing your risk profile from cash secured put option to a naked put option. So let's look at some risk profiles. And before we have the risk profile theoretical academics like dogging me on this stuff. I get it. My theoretical academical explanations of things, they're not necessarily on point. But I tell you what, I'm not trying to write a MBA thesis paper here. I'm not doing anything like that. What Brent is doing is trying to make money and not lose money. So if my academical theoretical explanations are not 100% accurate, but Brent's making money and not losing money, I don't care. I care about making money and not losing money. I care about risk management. That's what I care about. So don't dog me too much if some of this stuff you're like, well, that's whatever, right? And I hope to convey that to you guys too. If you're watching this, make money, don't lose money, manage risk. And if you get some definitions wrong or whatever, here or there, whatever, you know, your banker probably doesn't judge you on your definitions. Your banker judges you on your financial statement. So here we have a risk graph. So here's like a typical risk graph for an option. And whether it's a cash secured put option, whether it's a naked put option, I think you might have the same risk graph on the textbook definition. In my mind, it's a different risk graph, and I'll show you that in a moment. But so here we have your profit and loss. This is not the stock profit and loss. This is your profit and loss from money you made from the position. And this would be the stock going from like 0 on to whatever strike price it's at. So when you're selling an option, now this is referring to just specifically the premium, right? Or the money, this part is referring to the premium. And you're capped. Your profit is capped at the amount of premium that you originally brought in. So let's say you bring in 20 bucks. Here's your $20 mark. No matter what happens, you can't make more than 20 bucks on selling a put option on the first part of the trade, right? That's it. You brought in 20 bucks. When we're looking at $20, you brought in 20 bucks. This option is going to be open for a certain amount of time, certain amount of days, and during that certain amount of days, this is it. And what can happen though is you can lose money. You can't make more than 20 bucks, but you can definitely lose money. What are some ways that you would lose money? Well, one way you would lose money is that if you do not have the money to buy the stock, probably if you don't have the money to buy the stock and it starts getting close to you needing to buy the stock, probably what's going to happen is your broker is going to close your position for you. And more than likely, it's going to be closing at a loss. So you sold it for 20 bucks, and now maybe it's like, it's getting into that danger zone. Your broker realizes you don't have the money to fulfill the commitment. They don't want to deal with that headache, so they close out your position and for whatever loss. Now, when you have the cash to purchase the stock, you trade currency for shares of stock if exercised. So this is where some of the academics will probably not agree with what I'm saying. But I'll tell you what, my bank account agrees with what I'm saying. So this is the way that I see it. So when I initially open a put option, a cash secured put option on a stock that I want to acquire or I don't mind acquiring, this is the way that I see it. I took in 20 bucks and that's it. I took in 20 bucks. Nothing's going to change that, right? If it expires worthless, I keep that 20 bucks. If I get assigned, I keep that 20 bucks. If I get assigned, I'm going to trade currency for a different type of asset. I'm going to trade currency that basically gets deflated away, loses value due to deflation. I'm going to trade it for an asset, ideally an income producing asset. Now the risk in one part of where people would want to see something change a little bit is if I bought whatever price I bought the stock at, if the stock price goes to 0, because then the currency I traded for that asset, the paper asset of the stock, if the stock goes to 0, then I've lost everything, right? That's why at the end of this video, you need to download something that I have for you to help select good stocks to sell put options on. But this doesn't really happen that often. You could get an Enron, you can get some of these, but if you do a little bit of due diligence and you kind of get skilled at this whole process, you're probably not going to have a stock go to 0. Not the value of it. This cannot happen for you though if you don't have the money to buy the stock. You got to keep yourself in this cash secured position. If you start doing the naked option, you could potentially lose money at expiration. When you're cash secured, you're going to keep the premium no matter what, and you either keep your US currency or whatever currency you're trading in, or you trade that currency for income producing asset. And then when you do that, when you trade your currency for this income producing asset, you can start looking at your cost basis. Now, this is some snapshots I took from a spreadsheet that I use to calculate my cost basis. I got a buddy that is a CPA, and he just like gets nitpicky on me using this term cost basis for this right here. He sees what I'm doing here and he says, this is not your cost basis. So again, for the academics, for those type of things, like, look, if you want to leave my discrepancies of my definitions in the comments, you can go for it, but you know what? I'm still going to do it. So what I have here is, you can see the ticker. I got this column if I'm going to sell the stock. I got the column for the price that I bought the stock at. And this is a credit that I'm going to put any type of option credit in. I'll put any type of dividend credit in. And then over on this side, it's calculating the cost basis for me. So in this little example, let's say going back, I sold that put option. And let's say the first time I sold it, it expired worthless. And I took in a credit of $4 minus a commission, $3.34. The second time I sell this put option, I take in a little more premium. I net $5.38. And this time though, I happened to get assigned, but I kept that cash to the side. So I kept my position cash secured the whole time. So I was able to buy at the strike price that I committed to, $8. I had that $800 there. So I bought 100 shares at $8. And then over on this side, it shows me my cost basis. Now you notice my cost basis is not $8. It's $8 times 100. So 800 minus $3.38, excuse me, minus $3.34, minus $5.34, brings me a net cost basis of $7.91 per share. Now over time, I'm doing the same thing. So now after I bought it, I sell a covered call option. I bring in another net another $3.34, and I get paid some dividends, and that gives me $1.34. So look what happened to my cost basis. My cost basis has been lowered. So when you're selling a cash secured put option and you leave the money there, and you select a stock that is going to stay in business for a while and pays you a dividend, ideally, then one of two things will happen by playing out this scenario. The thing that happens to me the most is that as I'm selling these covered call options at a strike price higher than $8, sooner or later, I get assigned and I sell the stock. So I end up making $8. I end up making, like, let's say I get assigned at $9. So I end up making $100 on the capital gains of the stock, plus all this premium that I brought in throughout that process. But let's say I don't get assigned. Let's say I keep selling those covered call options and I keep bringing in dividends, and I just happen to do it in a way that I never get assigned. Can you see that it keeps driving down this number lower and lower? So if you do that over time, maybe it takes you 5 years, 3 years, 8 years, but assuming you're going to be alive and you're still going to be spending money, like, why not do it? Let's say you drive this cost basis down to 0. Cost basis of 0 equals infinite return on investment. Because what happens is that when your cost basis is 0, that means you've taken your $800 back out from the asset. The asset has given you $800 back. So now you have $800, you have 100 shares of stock, and you're still collecting dividends, and you're still collecting premium from covered call options. And Robert Kiyosaki is going to give you a high five. This is this is a beautiful thing. If you need to, watch this again, and let's talk about some takeaways. Oh, before we talk about the takeaways, Guga, his final question is, if I sell before expiration, what happens with the premium received? Now, here's something that I'm not a stickler. I live in Hawaii, like I said. There's tons of people here that do not speak English as their native language. In fact, there's so many people here, like I can speak a little bit of Chinese, I can speak a little bit of Filipino, I can speak a little bit of Samoan, I can speak a little bit of Hawaiian, I can speak a little bit of German. Oh, what else do I know? There's so many different people living here. So I talk to people all the time that English is not their native language. However, for trading though, let's make sure that we understand some things. What you're really asking here, Guga, is that this is what you're asking. If I buy to close before expiration, because you sold to open, so you're going to buy to close. What happens if you close the position? If you buy to close the position before expiration, what happens to the premium I received? Well, it depends. If you sell this put option for a 3-month time period, how many days of being opened are you selling to close for? So after 1 month, if you sell for a 3-month time period and you close it after 1 month, there's a chance you're not making any money, depending on what the stock did and these other factors at play. Now, let's say though that ideally what you want to do is you buy to close the position at a lower price than you sold to open. And if you do that, you'll have a profit. So for example, let's say you sold to open for 20 cents, it's times 100 shares, so you brought in 20 bucks. And then time goes by, let's say you sold it for 30 days, and after 15 days, let's say it lost half its value. You can buy to close for, let's say, 10 cents times 100 shares, or $10, right? So sell to open, brought in 20 bucks, buy to close, you pay 10 equals $10 profit before commissions, if everything goes according to plan. That's why I'm really emphasizing consider selling at 30 days or less, so you have that theta decay happening at a more rapid pace. So if you want to close the position before expiration, you have a higher chance of closing it at a profit. Some of the things, takeaways, or things to consider. Number one, paper trade. Paper trade this stuff. Before you risk real money, paper trade this stuff. Speaking of risking real money, priority number one is not profit. Priority number one is risk management. Real money. Only trade real money you can afford to lose. This is a big one. This is not a get-rich-quick thing. This is a long game. Eventually, you might get rich real quick once you know what you're doing, but it might take a while to know what you're doing. I made a different video in the past talking about mistakes people make. One mistake I see people making is they don't realize who their competition is. Have you heard of Warren Buffett? How do you know if he's not on the other side of the trade? You don't know who's on the other side of the trade from you. There's only one US stock market, and all these people you see on whatever financial news, all these people in Wall Street, they're in that same market. Anyone is your competition. So if you were going to be a boxer, would you want to box Manny Pacquiao as your first opponent, or should you go with someone with lower skill? Right? Since it's not that way in the stock market, you can do that in athletics, but you can't do that in the stock market. Once you start trading real money, you're playing against the pros, you're playing against the newbies, you're playing against everybody. You have no clue who it is. So don't trade real money that you cannot afford to lose. You do not want to be doing that. It's going to cause problems. And again, consider selling, consider 30 days or less to expiration, since theta decay really begins to increase. Lastly, go to eyeofsuccess.com. Download this cash secured put stock selection guide. Look at this framework. Add to it. Take away from it. But have some sort of framework. Have a mental model that you can begin kind of working with, a bit of a recipe, so you can have an idea of how to better pick a stock. Since if you're selling a cash secured put option and you plan on owning, you're okay with taking ownership of that asset, the biggest problem is the stock going to zero. I showed you through reducing the cost basis. The biggest problem, if you're willing to own the stock for your rest of your life, the biggest problem is not the stock trading lower than your strike price, because eventually you can lower your cost basis lower than the price that you bought it for, the price that it's trading. You can lower your cost basis to zero. The biggest problem with this is if the stock goes out of business. So download the cash secured put stock selection guide. Give yourself a framework that you can do. You can also get the stock options Greek cheat sheet. It'll be helpful, so you can just have it on your computer, pull it up real quick, and see a one-sentence definition when you hear that term. And then once you kind of have an idea of what these definitions are, you can start playing with them in your paper trading account to see how they blend together. I hope you guys had a great time. I'm really thankful that Guga sent in this question, because I guess that I never thought about that. I probably thought about that when I first started trading. I'm thinking about other things now. So I appreciate that, and I hope you guys learned something from that. If you have any questions, please send them in. I'll do my best to answer them. Have a fantastic day. Bye-bye.